Yo, what is up? I'm gonna be going over a trade I recently took on PEPE today. Just gonna start right away into it. If we look at the higher time frame on this chart, as you can see, a lot of buy side liquidity above on the higher time frame, and we are at macro lows after having lots of exhaustion to the downside and buy side liquidity creation above. Locally here, we had the aggressive wick and then some sort of a rounding up bottom kind of forming here, although it would look much better to come down here and sweep that and then actually create a proper accumulation. That would look much better like this than all of this crazy amount of local sell side liquidity buildup that we're seeing here. We have low, 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 and then all of these stacking. So if we draw our overall range, locally here, this is our range. Had some exhaustion prior to this range. So if we do expect this to go over into some sort of an accumulation, which isn't a crazy location for it to do so, that could look really nice. That would be something I would pre-plan. This wick, since it was such a liquidative wick, you don't necessarily look at this wick low as a liquidity point, although if we come into the left, you can see we have clean demand zone there. That price may want to come for before having a bullish continuation. And yeah, so locally here, price put in a naked low there after coming down, front running that low, and then again naked low here, got the move up, came down, front ran this low, and then came up and swept the high. So based on naked low swing high theory, you would expect after deviating this high, price to get that reversal back down to the naked low. And then locally here we have a range. With a 1, a 2, and a right there 3, but the trade I took ended up being a loss, and I traded this model 1 right here, where we had this liquidity building up to here. Some sort of a distribution as our range starting point. And then if we zoom in here, we had some sort of a demand zone here, although it was mitigated there. Some sort of a demand zone. We pushed up here. And then what happened was, you create this demand on the aggressive push into the third tap POI. You had some sort of a local topping formation here. Think we're still live. Got some internet issue right there, but it's fine. Let me actually... Sorry about this. Not sure if I'm still live and recording. Hopefully it is all going smoothly. Yeah, so we had this topping formation. We got a break, although I wasn't confident to enter yet on that break due to the demand below, although it was mitigated there. And then you can see that we had a supply creation within the topping formation, got the mitigation of the demand below that low, pushed up, broke structure again, but on that move up, still wasn't confident to enter there yet, because on that move up, we again created this demand here. After breaking that low, had that created demand there. And then from there, we aggressively pushed down, creating some supply right here. So we had a combination of level 1 and level 2 breaks and a demand to supply flip right here, which kind of can act as a breaker structure, like a pre-breaker structure, where you have a demand zone, you push out, creating demand, and you come down, you bounce on that demand, and then you aggressively push down, closing inside of that demand with that inefficiency, creating supply. So it's kind of like a pre-break. It's kind of like, you know, some type of a break. So we had level 1, level 2 breaks. Then we had the demand to supply flip, and the confirmation I used to enter this trade was on a 1 hour bottom or top formation confirmation, and I just entered the trade like this, which as you can see got stopped out, but that was the confirmation I used for this trade. Bitcoin was also in that semi-pro environment. You can see that 1 hour top, it ended up playing out. Like, we did get the bearish close there, but this just ended up going into a 1 hour bottom, just kind of in this overall demand region. So yeah, that's what happened there. And then yeah, if we zoom out and see what ended up happening, we created some sort of a topping formation here, and kind of like a PO3 that is currently lacking acceptance back into the range. So we're going to see some sort of a distribution there with a, you know, aggressive push back into the range, but not really closing deep inside the range yet, kind of flirting around that acceptance area. Locally here, getting a liquidity sweep and a buy. So yeah, just gonna be watching this for a potential test entry. Coming up here. Into this supply. Double checking that supply in the lower time frame. Yep. Looks decent enough. So yeah, just gonna be watching this for some sort of a test entry. After my initial entry got stopped out. Bitcoin. I can go on USDT actually. USDT at the moment of that entry was having some sort of an accumulation here locally that ended up playing out, but did not get any follow through. So, you know, enter the PEPE trade. This was still in progress. So, you know, enter on the anticipation of it playing out and getting follow through, but it did not. So this is kind of what we're looking at here. We had this higher time frame accumulation here, and then we pushed down at that third tap with its own accumulation there. So that didn't get any follow through. It immediately went to a distribution and failed. So you can see you had this local confluence, but we weren't trading a local model. We were trading a high time frame model here. So the local confluence did not get any follow through, and neither did the higher time frame trade we took on PEPE here. So yeah, just gonna be watching for that test entry, and also gonna be watching these majors for some acceptance down. Although locally here we have an accumulation forming on Bitcoin. So maybe that wants to form a range low. That's going to push price up, and then we can have that higher time frame distribution right here that can actually have the fuel to create that bearish rotation, and then, you know, simultaneously we can have USDT actually sweeping this key POI here. Could be something like that, some sort of a PO3 type price action on USDT there. And we can look to trade the majors and also the altcoins alongside that expectation and that confirmation, ideally the confirmation, because we've been taking a lot of L's, trying to trade this pivot, and some W's for sure on these recent, you saw that there's like 4 W's took recently that definitely make up for much more than the losses, but taking a lot of losses trying to trade the potential pivot when we're just trading the expectation of a pivot, the anticipation of a pivot, not the confirmation of the pivot. But once the confirmation is clear, any pullbacks are no-brainer plays. Right now it's still a little bit sketchier because we're just kind of grinding down, and then on Bitcoin grinding up. So it's gotta be aware of that we don't have that same kind of confidence due to the fact that there's no confirmations just yet. We're just trading the anticipation of a pivot. But yeah, that's all for this video. Let me know if you got any questions. Talk to you later.